And it's just an odd thing. You're talking about this woman joking, making the death of a child is a joke, and there are people that would laugh about that. It really disturbs me, where as a country, we have been going for a while, right? And the extreme leftists are completely out of their mind. They really are. And yet, in a way, you can kind of see where they're burying themselves, and they're maybe just too dumb to see it, because the recent Barna polling show that the millennials, for a majority, are moving towards the Republican Party and away from the Democrats, right? It's just too much. They're like even some of the liberals that were at the White House press corps dinner that just said, no, it's just too much, stop, right?
Yeah.
There's a level that is beyond profane, it's satanic, it's demonic.
It is.
In addition to just being flat out discourteous, right? As a nation, we don't celebrate chivalry anymore, and opening the door for a woman and having polite discourse. We've abandoned that. Everything is profane and dark and ugly, and the Z generation, like his young daughters are, they're even more conservative than our generation was. So what we're seeing is, yes, there is this darkness. There are these ugly, terrible people that happen to dominate the fake news and the mega media outlets. And so you hear them talking and you think they represent more than what they actually do. They don't yet realize they're dying, they're dead, and they're going to be replaced, right?
Wow.
True.
They need to cry out, you don't represent me.
Well, because, isn't it interesting where darkness does abound, right? So much more the light, the gospel. That as we move into the end times, both actually become predominant. On the one hand, you have this great tribulation. You have the threat of chaos. You have the threat of a pestilence. You have bioterror. You have all that's a possibility. An EMP weapon from North Korea. By the way, I don't trust this thing with North Korea very much at all. I hope that it's the hugging that, that the Korean North and South, I hope that's real. I hope they do have a denuclearization. I hope it happens. But some of our intelligence, and as you know, I have contacts in the Pentagon, including Colonel McGinnis.
Yes.
We were in a vehicle with him the other day, me and Joe, asking him, did we use some kind of new smart missile technology? Because that was pretty amazing targeting. And he said, oh, yeah. And he couldn't tell me what it was, but he said, this is not your grandpa's missiles. He said, man, we were testing some brand new stuff there, and it was pinpoint accurate. They didn't shoot a single thing out of the air with the Russian anti-missile devices that Russia probably sold them outdated stuff for a bunch of money or whatever, right? But you see all of that happening, and the threat of an EMP and the grid going down and all that, but at the same time, we're seeing what appears to be a movement towards a great awakening, a great spiritual awakening.
Amen.
And it was in my mind yesterday that the 70th anniversary of Israel, 1948. But don't forget that all of that came out, but following the Balfour Declaration, everything that was happening, the Zionist movement that was in Israel, at the end of World War II, the darkest time, right? Terrible, Dachau, Auschwitz, millions of people had been killed. But then something happened. America got involved. The people with the right kind of hearts got involved. They said no further, and they invaded, and they got these Jews all out of the prison camps, right? And when the world began to realize what had happened, all of a sudden the Zionist movement got wings behind it, right? Britain came in support of it. The United States came in support of it. And Israel was born in a single day in 1948, the first time it had been a nation state in over 2,000 years, right? It had been dispersed. It was a fulfillment of prophecy. And yet Matthew 24, the parable of the fig tree, Jesus said, when you see all these things begin to come to pass, know that generation will not pass away until everything has been fulfilled. And according to Psalms 90, a generation is between 70 to 80 years. So we are literally celebrating the 70th anniversary of 1948, and if you take Jesus' words literally, that generation will not pass away until all of these things have been fulfilled. But it was a mixture of chaos and death and dying and terror and tribulation, that out of that came one of the greatest spiritual awakenings in the history of man. Because when you, with PTL and the evangelical churches and all of them, saw what was happening in Israel, they said, this is the budding of the fig tree.
Yes.
The imminent return of Jesus Christ is at hand. And it gave birth to the greatest revival in the history of humanity. So out of darkness, right?
Yes.
That's what the 70 years reminds me of.